In this video, a woman decides to yell and insult the nail salon owner while being filmed by another customer.
Yes, I can. I learned it pretty easy when I was a little girl.
As the owner defends herself, she puts a calm and collected face while being bombarded.
Then yeah, there's a
Yes,
problem.
yes, I have the bounce policy for that. Don't worry. I can.
Who all agrees with that?
Yes, ma'am.
Like, if you get a service done, I mean, should you be able to understand who's doing it?
I'm sorry, but now I apologize for the.
And to be paid, but there will be no tip anymore. And I will not frequent this place again.
Oh,
And I really suggest that you should learn English.
of course. You even know that I have to learn every single day. Doesn't matter how.
Well, maybe he doesn't know. Don't move to America unless you know
Thankfully,
English.
the owner is able to get some support by the customer
Your
filming.
language sounds nasty. It actually sounds like you were born out of a hermit crab.
We done now. We done now.
One plus one.
I have to
equals
say, I
nothing.
think you're being pretty nasty. I have to
think
say,
she's being
no,
pretty
you.
nasty.
I think you're being pretty nasty.
We are in an era where it seems that racism has hit its peak. The clip before shows how well that statement speaks. For Asians in this modern era, the spikes of COVID-19 lead to deja vu for many. In an era of being feared, ridiculed, and insulted because of our skin color, gender, and or sexuality, the world around must look for a better solution. Asians face degrading insults, physical beatings, robberies, and damage to their homes or vehicles throughout the first spike of COVID-19. There was much bitter resentment for almost every other community blaming any Asian, especially the Chinese, about bringing COVID-19 to the US.
The video starts in the middle of a dispute between this man and Patricia Medrano. She's the one taking this cell phone video. The encounter quickly turns violent. You can see the man kick a door at Medrano.
Many young Asian Americans face the negative consequences that came about from many other ethnicities, some predating statewide quarantines, some during, and some after.
Go get your kid. He just robbed your dumb ass. Go get the kid. He said, get the fuck off of him. Get your ass. He said, get the. He don't want to hit him up.
But the hate crimes against Asians have been going on since they started to immigrate. Hate crimes in the United States, Canada, Australia, and many more places that have Asians have immigrated to have been going on since. Within the United States, the ethnicity of Asians have been in an impasse for many years. I am here to talk about the false claim about model minorities and present why there is no set model minority ever within the United States of America. This is in due part to objection. Throughout my studies in Professor James McMaster's class, Asian American 240 Topics in Asian American Studies, the students took part in learning about objection in Karen Shimakawa's National Objection. In her book, objection is defined as an attempt to circumscribe and radically differentiate something that, although deemed repulsively other, is paradoxically at some fundamental level an undifferentiable part of the whole. This statement alone is what Asians face on a day-to-day basis. The actions of rejecting Asians, and not so soon after, the acceptance of Asians, is what the US has been doing since many of the first immigrants coming from Asia. The videos presented earlier create the grouping of non-Americans. As seen with Asians, the term of non-Americans does not only go with Asians, but those who do not meet the supposed standard that the US has. Gender, sexuality, race, and much more are the frontrunners of requirements that the United States looks at to deem a certain person or group of people to be American. But that does not necessarily mean that a certain person or group is American forever, but only until the US deems them unusable or unprofitable. This is objection. The choosing of certain groups of people to be deemed acceptable at any time and place. The term non Americans itself comes into question, as those farther up in the hierarchy, predominantly only male Caucasians, are the ones who decide whether they're accepted. As soon as they accepted, though, it gives the off chance that they can be rejected faster than they have been accepted. Another example of a period of anti Asian comes about after the events of 9/11. If you had brown skin, were affiliated with being a Muslim, and came from the Middle East, it automatically meant that you were a terrorist. People were and still are terrified of those who look and or are associated with the Muslim community. The word Muslim being relative. This fear that people have is still seen today, where they are told to go back to their respective countries or learn the English language, as shown before. Thus, leads us to two readings from Alok Fade Menon, where Alok talks about skin color, gender, race, and many stereotypes that lead to rejection from society. In two of the books Alok wrote, Femme in Public and Beyond the Gender Binary, Alok reveals about the many challenges that is faced with identity. Alok speaks out for everyone on his account as he pioneers a new way of identity and standard. Having been ridiculed for not meeting that standard, the US has not deemed Alok to be American. Rather that instead of the singular they pronoun, Alok is considered a traditional Middle Eastern male, as Alok has many masculine features, such as a beard. There are many who Alok has given the confidence to be able to give themselves their own identity through gender and sexuality. From looking at the modern era, I would like to go towards the past after the events of the Pearl Harbor bombing. After that heart-wrenching day, the US government decided to round up any Asian who was in the West Coast and put them into internment camps. Through these camps, it was to make sure that no spies were amongst the American people. At that point, any Asian was no longer deemed American. You were looked at as a potential traitor and spy. It did not matter if you were Japanese, Chinese, Korean, Filipino, or any Asian ethnicity. At any time, the United States has the hierarchy of the Caucasian male sitting at the top looking down upon everyone else. The term model minority in itself is a contradiction to all minorities. It creates a bondage and war between all minorities. It causes grief to the others that are not deemed that useless title. The fact that it only includes minorities gives the right and power to the majority, in this case, the Caucasians. That in and of itself is the sole reason that the term model minority needs to be put to rest. There should only be a model human. Minorities are not to be categorized lower than anyone else, nor should the majority be considered higher on the hierarchy. The acceptance and rejection of one certain group at any time needs to be stopped. It creates havoc and bad blood between all people. I want to thank you all for listening, and I ask you to share and discuss amongst yourselves about objection. The world needs all of us to come together to put an end to racism.